Hello, Capricorn. Welcome to your December 2023 forecast. There's a lot going on this month. There for you is going to be a lot of focus on things that are more spiritual, esoteric, things that are more psychological, spiritual, your friends, your associates, how you are navigating the world. And then towards the end of the month, we're going to be heading into your first house of self and identity. So there's a lot of things going on in the most private area of your chart, and then just starting to, by the end of the year, by New Year's, making its way towards like you re-entering the world, basically. So on the 1st, Mercury entered your first house. Mercury is the planet of communication. It's speaking, talking, writing, using your voice, self-expression, really wherever we're thinking about things, the area of the chart that's being stimulated to have a lot of like cerebral activity. So it's like what we're thinking about, what we're talking about, what we're having ideas about, who we're talking about it with, the opinions that we have about it, the plans that we're making around it. So having that go through your first house of self and identity and who you are, this can look like you just being generally busier or just talking more. Like maybe you're being a chatty Cathy, maybe you're saying yes to more plans, maybe other people are talking about you, or there's a little bit of a focal point and focus on things that you're doing or deciding to do for yourself, or the way that you look, the way that you're approaching the world, accomplishments, anything that's maybe public to other people or that they can see about you can generally look like a sense of like PR or what the headlines would be if there were like magazines about you right now. There's a focus on you. It can also just be that you're putting more ideas out into the world, you're having more plans, you're starting to re-enter the world a little bit with all of the things that you've been thinking about and planning about and like pondering for the last few weeks or month or so. You're starting to see it kind of culminate and come into fruition in a real way in the physical world. On the 3rd, Venus in your 10th house squared Pluto in your first house. So this certainly puts a emphasis or focal point on your accomplishments, on your career, your public image, your reputation, what other people can see about you. If it's not so much oriented with your career or your profession or what you do for work, this can just be general accomplishments that like you share on social media that people know about. Getting engaged, having a major weight loss, getting it into your first house, getting a very big promotion, being pregnant, things like that, especially because Pluto in your first house is who you are as a person. There's a very big identity shift happening for you. This is a whole nother conversation with you having Pluto leaving the last degrees of your first house of self and identity, because there's a lot of what is identity development that has been the most intense for you since 2008. It was a 15-year cycle and we're closing it up for you. And you've kind of seen what is a tease of the door shutting on this version of yourself. And we've opened it and closed it and opened it and closed it. And we're still going to do that for about another year or two. But this is going to bring the attention to, again, a sense of self that was having a very profound, on this day in particular, moment, truth, confrontation. Squares don't have to be the worst thing in the world. It's just a general sense of conflict, discomfort, friction, not for no reason, but rather to invite you to make a change or a decision or action or progress with something in regards to who you are as a person, what you look like in your identity, and then how that is kind of rubbing shoulders with your career, your public persona, your reputation, your accomplishments on a very big level, things that other people can see about you. Usually too, Venus-Pluto aspects have a lot to do with money and relationships. So those themes, or beauty, because it's in your first house, the way that you look, your physical attributes could have been relevant as well. On the 4th, Venus entered your 11th house. So Venus is the planet of love, money, beauty, pleasure, things that feel good. And wherever Venus is transiting is going to bring a general sense of ease and comfort and enjoyment and pleasure. So having that go through your 11th house, again, can be very social. It might look like you having more plans with people, hanging out with friends more, reconnecting with social circles. It's expanding your social network. This is an incredible time for if you have a job or a career or you're in an industry that requires you to kind of know the right people or just be well acquainted, having a lot of like personable energy. This is a really great time to go to a lot of events, to say yes to plans, to meet new people, to expand your network. You might even find that you're getting a general boost of support from other people. So if you're on social media or you're a creator or you run a client-based business or something with sales and marketing, this can look like a boost or a wave or an influx of other people investing into you, whether that be financially or energetically, getting a lot of followers, getting a lot of attention on who you are. Honestly, from the 1st to the 5th, it honestly looks like, even the 7th, it honestly looks like this is like the energy of kind of going viral. It's like you say the thing or you post the thing that gets a lot of attention, and there is this intense moment of, oh my God, there's a spotlight on me, but then you get the support of like, oh, this is a good thing because it's boosting something that's basically benefiting me by being so well connected on the 5th. So today, Venus in your 11th house is in a very supportive aspect to Saturn in your 3rd. So that's why I say that, because Saturn is the planet of challenge, restriction, limitation, responsibility, things that maybe aren't the most fun thing in the world, but are necessary in order to get things done and be an adult and be efficient. So to have that going through your 3rd house of speaking, talking, writing, using your voice, self-expression, communication is your day-to-day life. It's also transportation, it's siblings, it is getting from point A to point B. It's the very small details of life. It's the glue, but it's really going to be communication usually. Having Venus, again, a supportive planet and such a supportive aspect to the planet of discipline and responsibility and seriousness in the 3rd house, this can look like you using your voice or saying something pretty profound, or getting a lot of attention and recognition, and almost like asserting yourself as an authority to be respected in regards to the way that you communicated something, spoke about something, what you said on a podcast, what you posted on Twitter, what you said at your work meeting, maybe what you posted online, anything like that. It looks like your ability to confront something or speak about something supported you very well from the public eye, sort of swaying into your favor, basically. This can also be a connection between an extended sort of acquaintance and then like people that are very familiar with you. So like your bigger network versus like your very best friends, and there being like a nice sort of blending of two worlds here. I would say that I just think in general that this could even be infamy for other people. Like in some ways you might have said something that was a little like, maybe you shouldn't have said that, and then it gets thrown to the wrong group of people and gets thrown out of proportion. There is this very intense moment that attracts a lot of people kind of coming at you with a pitchfork, but then a lot of people being like, honestly, somebody needed to say it. On the 7th, Neptune stations direct in your 3rd house. So Neptune is the planet of dreams, spirituality, creativity, beauty. It's very intoxicating. It's very, has to do with things going very far and wide and taking up a lot of space, and usually things that are more psychological, having to do with mental health, addictions, escapism, romanticism, etc. So while it is a very beautiful planet, it has a lot to do with creativity and things that are very almost like fantasy-like. The reason that they're fantasy-like is because there's a problematic edge to it being a little bit intoxicating at the expense of it not being entirely true or deceptive or manipulative, or something that's just not adding up fully on paper, whether that be malicious or not. Having it stationed direct in your 3rd house is probably going to be very beneficial to you because it's been retrograde since June 30th, which can bring a general sense to, again, with your 3rd house being communication, a lot of brain fog, a lot of issues with thinking clearly, a lot of issues with productivity, with being understood. It's like anything that you say might have been taken the wrong way, or what you were thinking was just never really a cohesive string of thoughts. There could have just been a lot of scattered energy, a general lack of energy, maybe feeling very fatigued in your day-to-day, maybe just having a sense of blurriness or confusion, or one foot in, one foot out, inability to execute when it comes to day-to-day tasks, communication, or even transportation. If you've been having like literal car issues or disagreements with the people close to you, having it stationed direct is sort of going to resume regularly scheduled programming, and it can be a little bit of a wake-up call for some people, or like a harsh reality check by forcing you to face the truth of something, or like see something crystal clear that has been confusing, or maybe you've been intentionally ignoring up until this point. So that can maybe be like a clear conversation, or needing to see the facts of something and accept it. On the 10th, Venus in your 11th house is going to be opposite Jupiter in your 5th house. So this is one of those very good luck days for the month. And in your case, it's between your 5th house of creativity, talent, entertainment. It's singing, dancing, art, music, comedy, any sort of performance if you're a talented person or you're a creator. It's also children, it's pregnancy, it's romance, it's dating, it's sex, it's things that feel good, things that are enjoyable on a very frivolous level. And then the 11th house is everybody who does or doesn't support that, and your very big dreams on a vision board level. So to have both benefics, meaning both planets that want to give you good things rather than they want to give you bad things, they want to give you opportunities and growth and expansion on that axis of your chart. is very beneficial for, again, something going viral, wishing something and it actually coming true, manifesting something, having somebody help you get the thing that you want or get you to where you want to go, speaking to the right person at the right time that's well connected enough to help you bring your talent into the public eye. Anything that has to do with really your general sense of desire or something that you're good at, and people on a larger level being of support for that. On the 11th, there's going to be a new moon in your 12th house. So new moons are new beginnings, a new chapter starting, a new cycle, a conception of a new era that will last over the next 2 weeks, but then over the full circle moment of 6 months from this date. So from December 12th. So a new moon in your 12th house. Again, your 12th house is dreams, psyche, intuition, mental health, addictions, escapism, psychology. It's healing from trauma. It's feeling isolated and lonely. It's your imagination. It is what you do to run away from life, like drinking or doom scrolling or watching a lot of Netflix or things like that. It's typically going to be our blind spot, or where we are kind of self-sabotaging and becoming our own worst enemy because we're participating in most of our problems or our victimhood without maybe necessarily realizing it. So having a new moon in this area of the chart is going to show a new beginning in regards to something more spiritual or esoteric. You might start to get a little bit more into spiritual practices or things regarding faith or religion. There might be a new chapter starting in regards to letting go, which I know sounds a little bit contradictory, but it's like you might be kicking off a cycle of, let me start removing the things out of my life that are kind of keeping me in this quicksand sort of sludge rather than propelling forward. You might start to take more time for yourself, to stay in, to say no to plans and kind of work on yourself in private. You might start therapy. You might start a new medication. You might start something that really has to do with what's going on inside of you, in your mind and in your heart and in your faith, rather than things that are tangibly happening in our black and white world. On the 13th, Mercury is going to station retrograde in your first house. So again, Mercury is speaking, talking, writing, using your voice, self-expression. Having Mercury in the first house, being conversations, being plans, being talked about, or talking about yourself in your plans and the way that you are planning to like approach the world might start to come up for reconsideration, where you just need to return back to the drawing board. And it's like, before you charge forward with this new identity or this new plan for yourself, there's a few things that you need to kind of sort out first before aggressively moving forward. So this might feel like a little bit of a delay or a setback or an obstacle with something that you wanted for yourself. It's probably in your best interest, because you might be jumping the gun a little bit too much. As we kind of see throughout the month, having Mercury retrograde go throughout the more private area of your chart, you're going to see that the reason you needed to slow down was because of some things that were a little bit subconscious that might show us why you wanted to do these things so bad, why you want to change so bad, why you're ready to kind of re-enter the world as a new version of yourself so bad. And by getting clear on that, you'll be able to move forward more efficiently. On the 17th, the sun in your 12th house is going to square Neptune in your 3rd house. So again, really needing to trust your gut on this day. There can be a general sense of deception, of malicious sort of deception, like manipulation, intentionally pulling the wool over somebody's eyes in regards to men, a father figure, your ego, an authority figure, something like a boss or a landlord, or like people that are kind of in charge of you, a government official, anything like that. It doesn't have to be limited to those characters, but sometimes they can be relevant. And having that go through your 12th house, which again is bringing illumination to things that are more private or secretive, or having to do with what's going on subconsciously, coming into a conflicting aspect with Neptune in your 3rd house. So general confusion, intuition, creativity, imagination, or romanticization, and maybe not entirely living in reality in your 3rd house of how you are speaking, talking, writing, or expressing yourself. There's a disagreement between, again, your subconscious mind and then what you're doing in the real world. There's a disagreement or disconnect between maybe what you are like dealing with mentally and psychologically, and that kind of conflicting with your habits or the way that you address things or confront things with the people around you. In some ways, though, this might be that somebody else might be not being entirely honest or giving you all the details of something. So I would just tread lightly and try to trust your gut on this day. Also, just, say what you mean and mean what you say, and don't say anything permanent or make any crazy statements that maybe you don't entirely stand by yet, or are based off of something that you don't have confirmation is true yet. On the 22nd, the sun is going to enter your 1st house. So we had Mercury come here first. That brings the cerebral energy, that brings the ideas, that brings the talking energy, right? And then having the sun here doubles down on now bringing illumination to this area of the chart. wherever the sun is transiting is bringing warmth and creativity and ego, but also a lot of spotlight to that area. So this is really doubling down on the fact that this month for you is really going to be focused around who you are and what you look like in your identity. That's going to be one of the main areas of the chart that's really illuminated for you this month. On the 23rd, Mercury retrograde is going from your 1st to your 12th house. So this is what I mean when I say that it's retracing its steps and saying, okay, whoa, hold your horses before we charge forward so intensely with this new version of yourself or your identity or making this change to your looks or something like that. We need to revisit something more spiritual and psychological because there's something subconscious going on that is aiding in this process for better or for worse. So it's kind of asking you to revisit your beliefs and your faith and making sure you're kind of making these decisions from a place that is mentally like stable and balanced rather than a place that's maybe being projected from like old pain or past wounds or something that you maybe need to resolve first before projecting it into the real world. Again, it can also be something where your sense of self or identity changes based off of beliefs that you have about yourself, whether that be for better or for worse, or any sort of secrecy or missing information or something that you are hiding from others or others are hiding from you. On the 25th, Venus in your 11th house is going to try Neptune in your 5th house. Neptune, your 3rd house. So this is actually very supportive of friends, groups, communities, associates, your sense of belonging in the world, social media, supporting, speaking, talking, writing, using your voice. I know that I keep repeating that, but that's what it is. The 3rd house of how you're communicating with other people. So first we had a little bit of a conflicting aspect between the two. On the 17th, there was a little bit of deception or confusion around these two areas of the chart. And then by the 25th, by Christmas, it looks like it starts to ease itself out, and something that was maybe initially conflicting or confusing starts to become a little bit more clear, or at least working in your favor a little bit more beneficially. Christmas is the other really good luck day for everybody this month. I think that it's a great day to again, in your case, post something, say something, speak your mind, express yourself. It looks like, especially if you do some sort of like public speaking, podcasting, writing, like illustration, like any modality of media or publishing or broadcasting can go really well on this day. On the 27th, there's going to be a full moon in Cancer in your 7th house. So this is going to be an ending to a chapter regarding your relationships and the people closest to you. The 7th house doesn't have to be limited to romantic relationships. It can also be things like client-based businesses, business partners, interpersonal relationships, the people close to you. Having a full moon in the 7th house also doesn't have to mean an ending that necessarily equates to like a breakup on paper or like something so intense and awful. A full moon in Cancer can often be emotional because it's a water sign, having to do with home, family, living situation, roots, emotions, insecurities, things like that. It's also going to be at 4 degrees, which is a Cancer degree. So it's really doubling down on that energy, but you're a cardinal rising sign. So this is hitting on all your angles, and Cancer naturally is a cardinal sign, meaning that it wants to go. It wants to make progress. It wants to initiate things. So while there might be an ending, it's probably for the sake of a forced new beginning that you're actually excited about. Again, that can be in regards to yourself. Maybe this like ramped up new beginning is you're like, I'm going to be a new person because I'm letting go of these people. That can be a big part of it. I would say a full moon in the 7th house can look like setting boundaries with partners. It can look like breakups or endings. It can just look like one chapter of your relationship is something that's no longer going to need to be confronted all the time, anything like that. And it's going to bring a call back to July 17th. So we had a new moon in Cancer July 17th. This is the ending of whatever began for you back then, or just coming full circle, tying up of loose ends. On the 27th, Chiron, so the same day, is going to station direct in your 4th house. So Chiron isn't a planet, it's an asteroid, but it has a lot to do with sensitivities, wounds, triggers, where there's a little bit of unresolved emotions within the things that typically cause us a little bit of pain or humiliation or just emotional sensitivity. So having it stationed retrograde, I think, is different for everybody across the board. For some people, it gives them the opportunity to look inward and reflect on their wounds and see how it's affecting them from moving forward or like being at their best personal development in the world. For other people, I think that it's something that it can be a phase where pain hinders them to make any progress and they're kind of stagnant. And then for other people, I think that it's sort of like you might think you were over something and something didn't hurt and you were able to maybe compartmentalize it in a way where you didn't have to give it so much attention to something that was painful. And now as it stations direct, you'll start to see that it resumes regularly scheduled programming and you're like, okay, maybe this thing does sting a little bit more than I initially thought it did, or maybe I thought I was over it and I'm not. Like that can be something that's happening here, and that's also going to be a callback to July. So July was a very big month for everybody because a lot of the things that began back then or were less relevant then are now resurfacing in a new, resolved, or just a way that requires our attention again. On the 28th, Mercury retrograde in your 12th house is going to conjoin Mars and square Neptune in your 3rd house. So this is the loud and wrong transit I keep talking about with everybody, where especially with you, there's some subconscious things or things that have to do with secrecy or things that were like hidden behind closed doors, whether that mean because you didn't know about them or other people didn't know about something you were doing, a blind spot, or some sort of psychological denial is like being discussed or confronted or like aggressively coming up in a relevant way on this day, but in a way where like there's no clarity in the way that it's being communicated. It's like people are so passionately defending things that were never even true or accurate to begin with, or we are like relentlessly fighting over something that we know isn't real. Like it's something where the lines are blurred so much so to the point where it's just a bunch of people talking and yelling just to talk and yell. If it's not so much the aggression of an argument, it can be that you're like aggressively trying to initiate something or force something or have this like powerful new beginning, so much so to the point where you might fall on your face because you might be being overly optimistic about something that again isn't exactly what it seems. So just tread lightly here, but for you in particular, it's going to have a lot to do with what's going on in here and how it's coming out, whether that be for better or for worse. But it looks like there's just going to be a lot of general misunderstanding on that day. On the 29th, again, for you, that also has to do with like foreign travel too. If you're traveling, going on vacation, any issues with transportation or a lack of clarity around plans or anything having to do with like getting outside of your comfort zone, taking a short trip, just going to a different city, siblings, and getting from point A to point B looks a little bit complicated. On the 29th, Venus enters your 12th house. So now Venus is joining the party of the more private area of your chart and can show some sort of secret rendezvous, whether that mean you're hiding someone or someone's hiding you, or there's a little bit of a private sort of thing that's being kept in secret, again, whether that's maliciously or not, in regards to romance or wanting to be separate from your partner, or your partner wanting to be separate from you, meeting somebody long distance or overseas or on vacation, a general sense of loneliness or feeling unappreciated by the people around you, and kind of needing to look inward and reflect on your ideas of love and pleasure and things like that now that you have a little bit more privacy or alone time. This can be too like you're still doing a lot of plans, but maybe you're feeling lonely within a crowded room. It can be good though for, again, like spiritual awakenings, for getting in touch with yourself, for really doing like this esoteric like internal work with yourself. On the 31st, the last day of the year, on New Year's, Jupiter is going to station direct in your 5th house. So the 5th house is love, sex, romance, creativity, pleasure, children, pregnancy, dating, things like that. Having Jupiter here, it's been here since May and it'll be here until May of 2024. And Jupiter is the planet of growth, expansion, abundance. It really gives us opportunities and growth and the ability to expand this area of the chart. So having it station retrograde since September 9th, you might have found that there was a lack of progress or just more internal, like spiritual growth rather than seeing the growth in like your tangible, realistic, like physical world. Or there just might have been some general stagnancy or over like excess, like doing something overindulgently between your, again, like love, sex, romance, and creative endeavors. And having it station retrograde is going to kind of, or I'm sorry, having it station direct is going to kind of flip it on its back and have it operating in its natural condition again. The reason that this is going to be important though is because it's going to station direct at 5 degrees, which is the same degree that we had a lunar eclipse on October 28th in Taurus at. So you just closed the door to a major, like almost 2-year cycle on around Halloween of this year that actually was the ending to something that began in late 2021. So think back to November, December of late 2021, whatever the door opened in regards to romantic prospects and to people you were dating and to creativity, into things that you wanted for yourself, into being selfish, into what do I want, what do I care about despite what everybody else thinks is best for me, anything like that. Having that degree kind of like reappear again now with Jupiter is saying that whatever closed out around Halloween, whatever door was slammed shut in regard to those themes, whether that be a breakup, a separation, full circle moment, whatever it is. This is kind of being replaced with, it's like a baton pass of whatever you let go of is now being replaced with something far more abundant, lucrative, expansive, exciting, something that gives you a lot more room to play. It's like more fertile ground to grow something that will be far better than whatever you had to let go of. So there's definitely a lot going on this month. A lot of it is in regards to your identity, really clearing out what has been happening behind closed doors or subconsciously or sort of like lurking in the depths of your mind, now coming out in a more public way, and that'll be happening for you in January as well. They need to be confronted in order to move forward, and I think you're going to be closing out a lot more things than you are starting new things this month, but it's in preparation of starting a new chapter of your life into the new year. So I hope that this helped you. If you have any questions, let me know. I would love to hear what you're going through in the comments down below. If you want to book a personal reading, everything that you need is going to be in the description below, or you can check me out at KMONEY.biz. I hope you have an amazing end of the year and an amazing New Year's, and thank you so much for watching.